I want to pick up on a few comments which have been made, particularly one by Swatantra Nandandwa, who says, sack the BBC chair and whole board and start again with a new BBC, and you get a real public service broadcast, and set stringent rules on press broadcasting, shut down the Red Tops and the Daily Telegraph, Mail and Sun, fund a state newspaper. I think actually we don't need a state newspaper, but I think we do need a change and a shake-up in broadcasting and in media coverage. We need more media coverage, not less. So Duncan Smith says, in Russian classrooms it is routine, and we're talking about the the teacher who slapped an Uzbek student, a sixth form Uzbek student who protested that in a Russian language class she explained some grammar in Uzbek rather than Russian. And then she goes on, in Russian classrooms it is routine, that's what I said, but this classroom was in Uzbekistan. Yes, it was, but Uzbekistan is very much under the Russian umbrella and has been for a long time. And when I was in Russia in the running the education department of the Moscow Pedagogic University, I was slightly appalled that this sort of slapping went on, and I was told that it was routine and that I shouldn't make a great fuss. And so I cannot imagine that the people who are protesting now are surprised that a teacher should slap a student or tug on her ear when that student is cheeky. The standards in Russian schools cannot have advanced so much since I was in Moscow. And to say this is Uzbekistan, yes, of course it is. And I know Uzbek teachers who are significantly more cautious than this, but I'm not remotely surprised that this method of behaving continues. It doesn't matter, really, because it's being judged by people in the Russian Duma who are effecting some sort of surprise when no surprise should exist. There is no reason to be surprised. They've all experienced this. They've all seen this. They've got children of their own in these classes, and they hear stories about their teachers slapping them round the back of the neck on a regular basis. I promise you, this is a story which has been concocted for the international media and to give some sort of excuse for Russian aggression in Uzbekistan as there was Russian aggression in Ukraine. This is the same story because these people cannot stop. And significant, it wasn't the education minister who interfered in this story. It was Maria Zakharova, the Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, who commented so hugely on it, plus a few provocateurs in the Russian Duma. This is a non-story, believe me. Now, we may think that slapping a student is inappropriate. I think it is. But it's not something that is particularly surprising in a school that has been influenced by Russian methodology. As simple as that. Slurpentis CEO says, who writes the scripts you read? Well, I don't always read them, but I make notes myself, and then generally my day starts early in the morning at about 6 o'clock, and I read through the main newspapers. I tend to start with the Financial Times, and if I've got time before teaching, then I will eventually get on to the right-wing rubbish like the Daily Telegraph and the Mail and GB News. But I quite like the contrast between the Financial Times and some of the gutter press. I may also occasionally drop into some YouTube channels, but I find that they go a bit too slowly for me, so I tend not to look at YouTube channels, and I tend to stick to the written text because I can read it faster. I make a few notes. Sometimes, if I get really excited, I will write out an entire script, and then when I've got all this information together, I will go through it and record. Sometimes I've got mute on. I tend not to listen to the stuff once it's out there So I am very grateful if somebody writes back and says, "Oh, you've got no sound on," because that's very helpful. And Miss Fight says, "I enjoy Merton's deadpan humour, but Hislop is wonderful. I saw the Private Eye's cover in passing last week and laughed out loud, alone in a supermarket." Yes, I must say the thing that made me laugh out loud was the parking antics of Thingamy, whatever his name is, in the new BBC series called Ludwig. It is genuinely funny. I very rarely laugh out loud, so I understand entirely what you mean, Miss Fight. It's a rare moment in the media these days when something is genuinely so funny, whether in print or on television or on the wireless, that you actually laugh out loud. I think it's a wonderful thing, and more should be encouraged. Let's have some hooting in the shops.